think you're the singing.
Councilman Holland, live with the mic.
Live with the mics.
Loud and clear.
Aunt Judy, she had a place in Okeechobee. She's up in Virginia Beach now, at home. She's got dementia. She was married to my Uncle Jimmy.
Good evening.
Good evening.
It is my pleasure to call the meeting of the Mayor and Council to order on Tuesday, August 12th, 2025 at 7 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. At this time, if you would rise for the invocation from Dr. and Councilwoman Stephanie Grassett.
Heavenly Father, we ask for your wisdom and guidance as we meet tonight. May we have clarity of thought, unite to serve a common purpose, and demonstrate our love for the city we serve in all of the discussions and decisions made this evening. In your name we pray. Amen.
Amen.
If you would remain standing for pledge of allegiance. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
You may be seated. Are there any changes to the agenda for tonight's meeting?
No, sir, there are not.
Okay. I'm going to move on to the approval of the minutes from our previous council meeting on Tuesday, July 22nd, 2025. Those minutes have been provided in your packet. If there are no questions or comments regarding those minutes, I'll accept the motion.
Councilman Holland, Mr. Mayor, I make that motion.
I have a motion from Councilman Holland. Is there a second?
I second the motion.
We have a second from Councilman Bradley. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, passed unanimously. All right, going to move over to our next item on the agenda, and Ms. Trish Newcomer.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good evening.
So this evening, I have the privilege of presenting to you an award, and I want to give you a little bit of background on it. It is our 20-year participation award from the Delaware Insurance Division, and this is because of our participation in the Delaware Workplace Safety Program. It's in conjunction with the Delaware Compensation Rating Bureau, and our participation in this allows us to receive a discount on our insurance premiums. And just by terms and numbers, because I think that's important for you to know how big of a deal this is, last year we received a 9% discount. The years prior to that was 10% discount. So we've done really well. When I say we, I should not say we, because this is spearheaded by Mr. Gary Andrews. He is chair of our safety committee. He takes this on as part of his additional duties as IT. This is not part of his job description. But he makes sure that the city has many, many opportunities for training in safety. He takes on all of the departmental inspections to make sure that before they come out and do their inspections, that we've done our due diligence and we've kind of buttoned everything up. So I want to present the award to you, but I also would like Gary to join me up here because it would not be without him or his efforts that we received this. So, Mr. Mayor, I would like to present you with a certificate, and we'll get Gary in the picture. And the insurance commissioner, Trinidad Navarro, actually came down and presented this, so that's what's on that picture. Go. You absolutely can. Yeah. Just come. Yep. Do you guys want to?
Come on down.
Gary's thrilled. Push in. Get it?
Mr. Mayor,
Yes, sir.
if I could, I would like to comment that I know firsthand how hard the job that Gary
Yeah.
has in order to comply with the workplace safety program, as my former business was a participant, and we were able to receive good discounts on the efforts, and it is not an easy task. So I wanted to congratulate him and acknowledge that, you know, it is a Herculean task.
Here, here. I'd say, you know, to echo those sentiments, Mr. Andrews has taken on a lot for the city in the years since he's been here, and his development and where he began to where he is now, and the responsibilities and the role he's taken on. He does an awful lot for us, and we're very thankful for his assistance. So, greatly appreciate it. At this time, I'm going to move over to public comment. Is there anyone here this evening for public comment?
We have Heather here with DMEC for public comment.
Okay.
I didn't expect you to have a microphone back there. Hello, everybody. I am Heather Content. For those of you who don't know me, I am Heather Content, the Director of Government and Community Relations with the Delaware Municipal Electric Corporation. So you guys know us as DMEC, your joint action agency for your power supply and many other services that you provide to your customers. And I know you've already received our invitation to our annual dinner. But as we've done with previous large events, we wanted to come down, personally invite you and tell you how much we appreciate you coming, how important it is as local decision makers for your utility that you be in attendance. And I wanted to give you a little sneak peek into how the evening's going to go, what we're going to talk about. Because if you were there last year, we hosted our very first energy industry panel. And we're going to have another panel come back again this year. It's going to be different speakers. The president and CEO of the American Municipal Power, which is a regional joint action agency that DMEC is a part of. They help bring things like our AMI program, our Efficiency Smart program. She's going to be on there to talk about how the region is impacted by capacity costs and generation resources. We're going to have someone from ACES, our energy market provider. They're looking at all of the load forecasting and our planning, our integrated resource plan that we've been working on to see where we need to build new generation to help bring reliability, resiliency, and also help bring some costs down. And then we're going to have Lincoln Willis. Many of you already know him. He is our lobbyist there at the state legislature. We saw 28 pieces of state energy legislation just this past session. For context, about 3 years ago, we saw 3. So it was very lively, and it is bound to be equally as lively in 2026. So he's going to give us some of his thoughts as to what to expect in January and where some conversations have been going even in the off season from the legislative session. So there's going to be a really great conversation there. As well as awards and recognition, especially for the national awards. You guys are frequently a winner of American Public Power Association's awards. We have some new awards that are going to get featured that year, so we encourage you to be there to celebrate your community's work in reliability and safety and the services that you provide your customers. As well as I know you've participated in Light Up Navajo previously. We're going to have Walter Haas, the general manager for the Navajo Tribal Utility Authority, back to give a update on the program, some of the successes that they've seen, and the lieutenant governor is going to recognize some of the line workers for the work that they've done there. So a lot happening. It is September 17th, so I know it's still a few weeks away, but we encourage you to attend. It's going to be up in Dover at Bally's from 5 to 8, and we hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate it. Is there anybody else here for public comment?
No, there's no one else here for public comment.
We got a hand raised. Hang on. Public comment?
I didn't see a place to sign in
That's okay. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself to the microphone, just for the
Hello,
record.
my name is Lynn Betts, and I'm the current president of the Society of St. Vincent de Paul Conference out of Our Lady of Lourdes Catholic Church here in Seaford. But I'm here today as a member of that group, and I would just wanted to share a little comment on the new fees for the electric hookup and stuff. And I wanted to thank Mayor and City Manager for meeting with me a few weeks ago and hearing me out on it. The new $300 charge to hook up, the timing could not be worse. The families that we serve have had their food stamps cut, they've had their Medicaid cut or totally wiped out, and the rent is ridiculous. That is no surprise to anybody here. As we're trying to get people into housing, because there are openings coming up on the list, and it's folks like St. Vincent de Paul. I don't want to go down the whole list because I'll miss people, but it is the nonprofits and the faith-based here that are coming up with the funds to get people into the housing that they can afford once they get in, because we say no a lot. That $300 fee is really a barrier at a terrible time. And just to show you how much we've put into it, and I did share this with you, just in the first 5 months of 2025, to the city of Seaford alone for utilities, St. Vincent de Paul spent $2,676.36. For the hookups, we've spent $400. So we've helped 2 families with that one particular fee. Our funding comes in through the pews, the generosity of the people sitting over at the Catholic Church, some grants if we can get them, and out of the pockets of the Vincentians, because it's really important to get people housed. And you know that. We've been meeting here monthly. The reason there's not a whole lot of blue shirts in here and some of the others is because of timing. As I pointed out, a lot of the people who are working in the faith-based and the nonprofits don't live within the city of Seaford. And even though the newspaper promoted or reported on those fees, only those of us that get the city bill saw the fine print with the $300. So summertime, the group is not meeting, so they will convene in September, and we'll get back to you on maybe some suggestions on how the city can help us deal with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Betts.
Thank you.
Anyone else here for public comment?
Else here for public comment?
Okay, thank you. I'm going to move on to correspondence. Is everybody here for correspondence?
No, sir, we have no correspondence.
All right, and on to new business number 1.
All right, so we have some guests here today. I'd like to introduce Mr. Bill Seymour and Ms. Toby Hollander to go through the FY24 audit and draft financial statements.
All right. Well,
Good evening.
Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Thank you for having us here tonight to present the FY24 financial statement results. My name is Toby Hollander. I'm the engagement partner. Bill Seymour sitting here as our advisory partner for the FY24 audit. Our scope of services included the audit of the June 30, 2024 financial statements of the City of Seaford, as well as an alternative compliance examination of the ARPA funds. This is a requirement for the federal funds that you'd received during the year and the spending that had occurred, as well as assistance with preparation of the financial statements and providing year-round advice and consultation. We really want to build a relationship with council, with management, that as accounting items come up throughout the year, that you reach out to us, discuss those items, so that when we get to the end of the year, it's not a surprise, but we're really already in agreement in the way that we would approach the accounting principle, the accounting change, or policy reflected in the statements. As a summary of our results, we're planning to issue a clean or unmodified opinion. That's the best opinion that we could offer on the financial statements, and that's both on the statements as well as on the examination itself. There were no significant deficiencies or material weaknesses noted in internal controls, and we did not discover nor were we made aware of any fraud. While this is not a fraud audit in scope, it's something that we're always looking out for in all of our processes, in our discussions, in our required testing, but it is not a fraud audit in scope. But if we were made aware of anything or had we discovered anything, we'd bring that to your attention. We received full cooperation of management for the audit, and we're presenting the results of the financial statements for 2024 at this point. On the next slide, I wanted to highlight our audit approach. This is what we call 4CAM, which is a risk-based audit approach, which stands for Focus on Risk Controls and Account Misstatement. You can see it's shaped like a funnel. And the thought process behind this is the areas at top, this is where we spend the most amount of time in order to design an audit that's the most effective and efficient as possible. So on top, we have our planning and understanding the business and the risk. We have our assessment and testing the design and operations of controls. This is where we spend the time up front, understanding the organization, understanding your industry, understanding the control processes that you have in place to make sure that transactions are occurring and being recorded appropriately. And we do testing to make sure they're operating as designed. Then we do our financial close and reporting misstatement analysis. This is where we look at the year-end balances and we build expectations or analysis of what we'd expect the numbers to be and compare that to the actual. Then we do our substantive testing. That's our testing of the year-end balances. And then we wrap up with our GAS compliance, our auditing standard requirements, and the reporting, finalizing the financial statements and reporting the results to you and to the council. Here, on this slide here, we have our assessment of the control environment. We use a 5-point interrelated framework that includes the control environment itself. That's what we'd call the tone at the top, the integrity of management, the standards that are being set by the organization, the risk assessment that the organization does, so making sure that management is looking out for risks of misstatement, of fraud, and control deficiencies if they were to occur. We look at the control activities in place. That includes assessing and walking through the controls that you have in place, understanding the procedures as designed, and making sure we can identify risks where they can occur, and as well as testing the controls that are in place. Then we look at the information and communication, and that's how information is shared internally throughout the organization, the IT systems, but as well as how different departments share information with each other. And then the overall monitoring activity, and that's the monitoring that management has done throughout the year and at year end to ensure that the control environment is operating effectively. And we did deem those to be effective. On the next slide, we'll highlight the key processes we look at. These are the control procedures that we look at. Includes treasury, which is the cash management and cash reconciliations, the estimations, these are the allowances, the estimates that are in the financial statements, the financial reporting process, so the reconciliations that are being done, the controlling, the closing of the books at year end, and then the revenue process, billing all the way through the cash collection, making sure revenue is cut off and recognized appropriately in the financial statements. We look at payroll all the way from hiring, attendance reporting, disbursement, and then separation if necessary, and the expenditures, and that's the purchasing processes, the receiving, the accounts payable recording, and the disbursement of cash, and we did deem those to be effective. On this slide here, we wanted to highlight, this is a summary level. The financial statements do have more level of detail, but the statement of net position. So you see here we have the governmental activities and the business type activities. Governmental primarily referring to this as the general fund, and then the business type being the proprietary fund, so electric, sewer, water, and golf. And what you can see here is on the current and other assets, we have increases this year from about 7 million to about 7.2 million for current and other assets. Capital assets have grown throughout the year. One of the larger changes you see in the assets is the change in the net pension asset or liability. This is an estimate that the actuaries record, and they go through a process to identify the liability that's recorded in the financial statements, and that can swing from year to year depending on the assumptions that are in place that the actuary uses. We look at the deferred inflows and outflows. Deferred outflows at the top increase on the governmental side from about 1.5 million to about 1.7, and then inflows down at the bottom had a decrease from about 920,000 to about 906,000 during the year. So overall, for the governmental activity, there was a decrease in net position from about 15 million to about 14.9 million during the year. And then on the business type activities, wanted to highlight here, there's increases in capital assets as well, about 28 million to about 29.3 million during the year. And overall, some decreases in liabilities, and the resulting net position was an increase this year from about 29.7 million last year to about 32.8 this year. On the next slide, this is small, so I'll highlight this one. But this is our statement of activities that are being shown. And what you can see, the governmental activities, there was a decrease in total revenue from about 8.7 million to about 6.8 during the year on the governmental side, but a larger increase in revenue on the business type activities. So overall at the bottom, what you can see is that the change in net position in governmental funds was a loss this year about 240,000, but there was an increase in the business type about 3.1 million. So the net increase was a growth, but there was a loss in the general fund with an increase, or in the governmental fund with an increase in the business type or proprietary funds. On this slide here, I wanted to highlight the sources of revenue for the general fund. And this is just a picture, this is in the financial statements as well, but that you can see that the bulk of the revenue for the general fund is coming from the taxes, so about 41%. And then your next major source is your intergovernmental revenues, about 26%, and then transfer tax is about 9%. So they're making up the majority of the revenue during the year. On the next slide, when you look at the functional expenses, the largest expenses that you see, about 45%, are from the police department. You have about 11% on capital outlay and about 10% on administration. And then on the next slide, we'll highlight on the proprietary fund, you can see that 93% of the revenue is coming from charges for services, so collections that you're receiving with smaller categories, but the bulk of it is that charges for service type. And on the next slide here, we have the functional expense with about 58% coming from purchase power and about 13% from payroll and other related payroll costs, so that you can see it's a comparison there. On this slide here, we wanted to highlight some of the upcoming GASB pronouncements. These are the government standard changes that will occur in the next fiscal year, which we're actually finished at this point. But the first one is GASB 101, which is compensated absences. And this requires a new measurement model looking at the different leave types that you have in place to determine if additional accrual is needed, where GASB wants an organization to see, are you more likely than not going to be using that leave in the future? We will work with management to help with the implementation. We don't believe it will have a significant impact on the financial statements, but if it did, it would be additional accrual and disclosure related to that change. On the next slide here, GASB 102 is the certain risk disclosures, and this will help provide additional detail or information to the users of the financial statements, really highlighting if an organization has concentrations of revenue or expenditure constraints that would limit the use of those funds, that would make a user aware of that in the footnotes in the statements. Again, this is effective in FY25 as well, and we'll work with management to help with the implementation, which we do not believe will be significant to the statements. On the next slide, just highlighting that there are two other pronouncements, GASB 103, the financial reporting model improvements, GASB 104, the disclosure of certain capital assets. These will be effective in future years, so our focus is on the FY25, and then we'll talk through this in future presentations. So the next few slides highlight our required communications. As part of our audit, there are certain areas that we'd like to make you aware of when we conclude the audit. And firstly, the reminder that the auditor's responsibilities towards the financial statements are to provide an opinion that the statements are free from material mistake, or reasonably free from material misstatement. We do look at the significant accounting policies that management has selected. They're described in the footnotes to the financial statements, and we did determine that these were acceptable accounting policies. If there were any significant audit adjustments, we'd bring that to your attention, and there were none. And then on the next slide, like I mentioned before, if there were any fraud or illegal acts, we'd bring that to your attention, and we are not aware of any in our procedures, not identify any. There were no material weaknesses and internal controls noted throughout the audit, and we're not aware that the financial statements are being recorded or are being shown in other documents. We had no disagreements with management on financial accounting or reporting issues, or no serious difficulties encountered in performing the audit. On the next slide here, no major issues discussed with management prior to acceptance. On the conclusion of the audit, we'll receive written representation from management to complete the audit. Excuse me. And then to our knowledge, there were no consultations with other accountants. This is what we would call opinion shopping. If we disagreed with how management was showing information in the statements and they went to another accounting firm and said, would you accept this? We'd bring that to your attention, but no concerns there. And we do go through a process to make sure that we're independent, and we have no concerns about independence here. I do want to highlight, I mentioned this already a few times, but while this is not a fraud audit in scope, we do have responsibility related to fraud, making sure that we're having required communications, looking out for fraud in all of our testing and following firm standards and audit standards. And we did those procedures and had no concerns to bring to your attention. And on this slide here, highlighting that while we as external auditors have responsibility for fraud management, of course, as well as responsibility to look out for the risk of fraud, but that the council, as well as making sure that you are assessing fraud risk and reinforcing the tone at the top and making sure that you're looking out for the risk of fraud at any time. And I wanted to turn it over to you for questions, if you had any on the presentations or on the statements.
Are there any questions from council for Ms. Hollander? Any comments? Yes, Vice Mayor.
Notice this is a draft. When will the final document be ready?
It'll be ready shortly after the meeting. Once we conclude here, then we can wrap up, get the representation letter from management, and issue the statements.
Thank you.
Any additional comments or questions?
Point of privilege, Mayor, if I
Please,
just might. I'd just like to thank SB Company and their team. They've been with us for the past few years. They really were very helpful this year. As council knows, Ms. Merritt, our Director of Finance, and her team had some challenges this last year. Countless hours were put in by our team, and SB Company was very helpful in that. So I just want to say thank you very much, not only to SB Company, but also our Director of Finance for her efforts.
Amen.
Yes, thank you.
Amen to that. Thank you so much.
All
Really
right, well,
appreciate it.
we do have our contact information here, so if there are any further questions, please feel free to reach out to us directly.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. There's no motion required for the new business number 1, so we'll move over to new business number 2. And our Chief of Police, Marshall Kraft. Yep.
Good evening. Good evening. Thank you for taking the time to see me tonight. I'll try to make it quick. So tonight, I wanted to talk about our Police Chief's Accountability and Advisory Board. Vice Mayor Henderson is the president of the board, and he has been since its inception, which is March 9th of 2021. We've updated our policy several times since the creation of it, and most recently, it was updated to meet the new post requirements, the police officer standards and training, and also to be in compliance with House Bill 206. Our last meeting was June 18th of 2025, at which time the police chief of the town of Blades, Martin Willey, came before the board, and it was presented before the board to request us to transition to a regional police chief's accountability advisory board to bring Blades into the fold. We've been discussing this for a matter of months, and we believe that it makes really good sense. They're a partner of ours. We work closely. A lot of transient type activity between the two communities. And during that presentation on June 18th, the board did vote with a favorable recommendation. And with that, we know that the mayor, according to our charter, has to appoint members to any of our boards. So that brought up some challenges that we had to look at, some requirements. And so as a result of that, in your packet, you have a memo to mayor and council, and you also have an updated policy statement, or rules essentially, for the PCAB, creating it as a regional board with the approval of tonight's council. The police chief has identified 2 people recently that he would like to recommend to be appointed to the board, and they're going through their background process. They're going to be attending our Citizens Police Academy that's scheduled to start August 27th. There's a mandatory required 20 hours of training for board members. They're going to meet all requirements for the city of Seaford as if would be on the board. And one of the recommendations from talking with the city manager was that there be a waiver of liability, since we're going to be putting people onto Seaford's board to work as a region. And the decision would just have to be made by mayor and council if you want to have the city draw up that release of liability, or if you want the town of Blades to do that and submit that. So prior to the end of the tonight's meeting, if you could direct me which way you would like to go, I'd appreciate that. What that means is the House Bill 206 under Title 11, Chapter 84 created a law that mandates every police department in the state of Delaware create a PAC, Police Accountability Committee, AKA for us, the Police Chiefs Accountability and Advisory Board. That was in place about a year ago. So they're somewhat out of compliance now, along with probably 30% of state or 30% of police departments in the state. So we want to partner with them. We want to help them come up to compliance and begin to engage. Next meeting is going to be September 18th. So hopefully we'll be able to go back with a favorable recommendation from the council to approve this, at which time the next council meeting, I'll be coming before the board. We'll submit those two names. By then they'll have completed their background, and we'll be able to present them to you, Mayor, so that you can, appoint them if you choose to do so to the board. That adds 2 additional people to our board, so there may be a discussion at our next meeting as to whether or not if someone wants to renew or if they're not going to renew. So we can stay about that 9-member. I think 7 to 9 is what we struck out to do. The other thing is that they have to be FOIA compliant. So whatever we're doing, they have to also do. We make sure that that's in our policy. So when we put out our agenda 7 days in advance, we take minutes, we publish the minutes, we vote on the minutes. Has to be open to the public, available to make public comment, just like council meetings and things of that nature. When we put that on our website, the information would be shared with the town of Blades. They would also have to comply with all of the FOIA compliance. So we'd have to just make sure that that's completely understood. Is there any questions that I could answer based on that?
Any questions from council for Chief of Police Marshall Kraft? Vice Mayor.
First off, thank you for your work on this. There was a brief discussion yesterday with the city manager about the length of terms, and just maybe put it on the next agenda so that we discuss the staggering of terms for the 2 out-of-city members, and maybe we can rearrange the terms and the number of participants on the Seaford side so that we're not dropping off a bunch of people all at once. And that was a pretty good suggestion by the city manager. But, let's try to further that conversation so that we're not starting all the way over again, with new members as Seaford's retires, and there's a possibility of Blades retiring all at once, and then we get pretty much a whole new board.
I agree. I will say at the next Police Chiefs Accountability Advisory Board meeting, the primary agenda item is going to be our 5-year strategic plan. It'd be a SWOT analysis conducted by Dr. Warren. We can add this in, and in advance, maybe we can have a conversation. I can send an email to the chief and maybe have a conversation with them in advance, so it won't take long at the beginning of the meeting, if that's okay. It's going to be some other things with mayor and council on that I will be sending out an invite for that meeting as well, published out to the public, so we got a lot going on that next meeting in September, but I'm hoping to have this resolved by then. That's really about it. Nothing really changes. They just have to comply with the terms of the policy, and the mayor would have to appoint the members.
Any additional questions or comments? Okay. If there are no additional questions or comments, at this time, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the revision to the Police Chiefs Advisory and Accountability Board bylaws that would add 2 members from the town of Blades to the PCAB as presented.
All right, we have a motion from Vice Mayor Dan Henderson. Is there a second?
Councilwoman Grassett, I second the motion.
We have a second from Councilwoman Grassett. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you.
And I believe, Chief, you're on for new business number 3 as well, correct?
I am.
All
Get
right.
to spend a lot of time with me tonight. I'll keep it brief. As you know, we've been going through the national accreditation for CLIA, which is a huge undertaking. We did get a favorable recommendation on our initial, and we have an upcoming on-site next week. And one of the things that came out of that, though, brought to our attention an issue potentially with our city charter relationship to Section 18 underneath of the duties of the police. And what we needed to do, we were able to get through that, but one of the recommendations is to update our charter to make it very clear that a police chief and duties of the police department, and that the police chief is in charge of the administration of the police department appointed by the mayor, reporting to the city manager under the terms and conditions of a contract. And I can read the exact verbiage that's been reviewed by our solicitor, if you got just a brief minute. Sure. So that would be to change from what it was to Section 18, Chief of Police, Duties of Police. The City of Seaford Police Department shall be under the supervision and command of a police chief who shall be appointed by the mayor with the advice and consent of City Council. The Chief of Police shall report directly to the city manager and be subject to applicable laws, including Delaware employment laws, terms of employment agreement. The Chief of Police shall be the head of the police department and shall be responsible for the organization, administration, and operation of the department. The chief shall have the authority to establish rules, regulations, policies necessary for effective operation of the department and appoint, assign, promote, suspend, or dismiss members of the police department in accordance with applicable laws and city personnel policies. Police officers of the city under the direction of the police chief shall be conservators of the peace within city limits. They shall have the authority and duty to enforce the applicable federal, state, and local laws and ordinances, maintain public order, protect life and property, and bring offenders before the appropriate judicial authority. So the big key thing here was it never mentioned police chief one time, never mentioned who actually oversaw the police department, and that was something that most departments have. And when you go through this national accreditation, they want structure and they want to see all of this type of stuff. The city manager did draft a city policy that put that in word, that language basically, but it wasn't in the charter. And we used also the job description to get through that. This will be helpful when we go before the commission in November, should the council approve the change.
And as council is aware, if I might, if council approves the language this evening, then we would send it up to our senator and our representative for sponsorship in the Senate and the House respectively, and they would have to run it at the next session, so I'd look for it to happen over the winter, spring of '26.
Yep. Very good. Any questions for our chief of police from council? Okay. If there are no questions or comments relating to new business number 3, I'll accept the motion.
Mr. Mayor, I make a motion to approve the draft change, charter change that would revise Section 18 duties of police. The proposed change would modernize the existing charter language. The proposed language would more clearly identify the duties and responsibility of the chief of police and other sworn officers as presented.
We have a motion from Vice Mayor Dan Henderson. Is there a second?
Councilman Holland, I second that motion.
A second from Councilman Holland. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you
Chief.
very much.
Appreciate
Thank
it.
you.
All right, on to new business number 4, and our Director of Economic Development and Community Relations, Trish Newcomer.
Good evening again.
Good evening.
This evening, I have before you a recommendation from the Economic Development Committee for a request from BCD&E Investments for the assistance of the electrical distribution improvements to service their location, their development at 520, 522, 524, 526, and 528 Porter Street. And those tax map numbers are identified as 331-7.00, -79.00.47.00, and sequentially .02, .03, .04, .05. We learned this the hard way at the ED committee. The committee actually met on August 5th to hear this, and I'm sorry, I want to introduce Mr. Brad Kaufman is here representing BCD&E Just to acclimate you where this property is located, it is on Porter Street, which is just south of Stein Highway, sort of behind that subway, across from Colonial Gardens, if you know where that is. You can go to the next slide. You can actually see the project is already underway. There's 5 homes being built there for workforce housing. This land, as you know, has been vacant for many, many years. You can go to the next slide. They're putting in an investment of about $800,000 into this project. They've spent about $38,000 so far in permit and impact fees. These homes will be rental homes, and they anticipate them to be ready by September 1st. But the request of the committee was to waive the equipment fees and then half of the labor fees, which is what the committee recommended. So that would be waiver of the equipment fees for $2,540 and half of the labor fees, which equated to $24,000 for a total reduction or an investment or incentive in the amount of $4,940. So if you have any questions for me or Mr. Kaufman, happy to answer any questions we can.
Okay, let's begin with questions or comments for Ms. Newcomer. Are there any questions or comments for Mr. Kaufman? Okay. If there are no questions or comments, at this time I'll accept the motion.
Councilman Bradley, I'd like to make a motion to approve the recommendation of the Economic Development Committee on the request from BCD&E Investment Group for assistance with electrical distribution improvements to service their development located at 520, 522, 524, 526, and 528, whoops, sorry about that, 528 Porter Street, and I have lost my place. I'm sorry.
You're fine.
I'm new. You'll have to excuse me. Okay. Thank you. Porter Street, TMP number 331-7-00, 79.00, 47.00, 331-7.00, -78.00.47.02, 331-7.00, 79.00, 47-03, 331-7.00, 79.00, 47.04, 331-7.00, 78.00, 47.00 as presented, and that's why I didn't want to do the motion.
Okay. We have a motion from Councilman Bradley. Is there a second?
Councilman McCoy, I'll second it.
Is there a second from
The
Councilman
easy part.
Cohen? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Newcomer. On to new business number 5.
Our operations coordinator in the wastewater treatment plant, Mr. Brian Tift, is here. Unfortunately, our Director of Public Works, Mr. Mears, is a little under the weather, so in for him tonight is Mr. Tift. He is looking forward to this presentation.
I bet he is.
Glad to have you.
Thank you. So the proposed code change that's we're talking about here pertains to our industrial pretreatment ordinance, specifically the definition for significant industrial user. What this change will allow us to do is reclassify certain categorical industrial users who are significant industrial users by default, allows us to reclassify them as what's called a non-significant categorical industrial user. This change to the definition basically mirrors what the federal regulations state in their definitions for significant industrial user. And this comes from part of the EPA's streamlining rule, which was published back in the mid-2000s. There were certain revisions to the pretreatment regulations back then that were designed to reduce the overall regulatory burden on both industrial users and control authorities, which is Seaford, without adversely affecting the environmental protection. So basically, what this allows us to do is, like, when an industrial user is under the significant industrial user classification, their permits have to be written a specific way, certain criteria in there that EPA likes to see. Sometimes for industrial users that have very small flows or very insignificant impacts, writing permits that way creates a conflicts, for them, where they have to do a lot of sampling, even though their impacts are small. This will allow us to write permits kind of based on what we feel that they need in order to have a discharge that's compliant and protect the wastewater plant, but without having to have all the EPA criteria met within the permit.
Okay. Are there any questions or comments from council regarding new business number 5? Vice
Yes.
Mayor? Yep.
Could you give an example, say, of a non-significant industrial user, just like what that typical non-significant user would, the activities would be?
It basically has to do with like the volume of flow. Like for one criteria for a categorical user to be non-significant is they have to have a flow of less than 100 gallons per day.
I would say that's pretty non-significant.
Yeah, yeah.
And it might be helpful for council, if I might.
Please.
Council's well aware that our treatment plant several years ago was regionalized.
Yes.
We had Blades for many, many years as a customer. We now have Bridgeville and Greenwood. As Mr. Tiff stated, we are the regulatory agency delegated by EPA. So our staff goes into industrial facilities in those communities mentioned and works with them. So there are, and most of you know some of the industrial facilities that are in Greenwood, Bridgeville, Rappaschrapple's one, Penn Fiber's another one that we look at, things like that. And we have, obviously, we have our own industrial park with several tenants in it. So our people interface with them more on a regional basis. So there are a handful of these that we deal with on a regular basis. I'm not positive if that helps, but.
Yeah, I'm just, when you speak of industrial, you're thinking of volumes.
Well, it's kind of, when you look at the federal regs, like especially for categorical industries, you could have an industry that discharges 50 gallons a day that would fall under basically the same regulations as another one that might do 300,000 gallons a day. So obviously the 300,000 gallon a day facility has a much larger potential for impact, and EPA recognized that, and that's kind of what they put these extra exclusions into that definition, that, so we can evaluate and say, if they don't have a significant discharge, we can really alleviate some of the sampling permitting burdens.
So, if I could.
Please.
Hypothetically, say you're at 99 gallons, but this 99 gallons is highly concentrated chemical byproduct or part of a process. But they have a way of concentrating it to get it down below the 100 gallons. How does that work?
Well, you wouldn't base it just based off the 100 gallons. You would want to know exactly what they're discharging as well.
So it's not strictly volume.
Right.
There's other criteria.
Right.
Okay.
And likely in a case like that, Councilman, we would still require pretreatment for that discharge to bring it down to residential strengths or things like that. And the code language that's proposed is very specific. It says the director may determine that an industrial user is subject to categorical pretreatment standards. So they would look at that, they would look at the discharge, look at the testing that gets done. And I'll just say, having been around some of this for a while, it is very exhaustive, very extensive requirements as they move through this process. And it can be very onerous for someone who has a very small discharge or may not do this. They may do it with a product run or something like that several times a year, in the fall or spring, something like that.
Okay. Any additional comments or questions from council?
A comment.
Please.
I just wanted to say thank you to Bryant for
Yeah.
giving me a tour of the facility. It was very enlightening, and I just want to say thank you for doing that. This gentleman here takes a lot of pride in what he does. It was very obvious that he enjoys what he does, and even though he's processing something very difficult, but the end result, when that water goes out into the Nanticoke River, is clear as a bell.
Amen.
So I just want to say thank you very much,
Appreciate it.
Brian.
I got a
for giving me
question
that.
for you, sir.
Mhm.
Well, did you take the initiation and drink the water after it was clear?
I did ask about that, should I drink the water, and they
Absolutely.
did kind of advise me not to, but,
Oh.
but he said, if you want to, go right ahead. But thanks again, Brian, thank you very
Thanks,
much.
gentlemen.
Appreciate it, thank you.
Okay, if there are no additional comments or questions, I'll accept the motion.
No motion,
No
this is
motion,
a
sir.
first reading, we're
Excuse me.
good. It'll come back.
Correct. First reading, so bring that back at another date. And we're going to move on to new business number 6.
Thank
Thank you.
Thank you.
Sorry, you're stuck with me again.
Back again.
Tonight, we have the concept and approval, potential approval for the benches around Hooper's Landing, the walking trail. As many of you know, this came about on social media. The mayor and Councilman Quillen asked for us to look into this and see what the feasibility was and come up with some locations. And our superintendent of Parks and Recreation, Katie Hickey, is here this evening. She reached out to her contact with General Recreation, and they provided us with a bench option. This bench is very similar to some of the benches that we have along Riverwalk if you go down there. It has an option for 4 foot, 6 foot. You can see it does have that optional center armrest. So on the 6 foot longer benches, you can put that there. This type bench allows you to sit either direction in the locations that were suggested. So if you want to go to the next slide. The 2 locations, the city manager and I went out multiple times. We also met with the superintendent of the grounds and then the golf pro to make sure that there was no concerns on their end for these locations. The top location is Locust Street, so just east of the Nanticoke Senior Center. This sort of looks out on hole 15 where that new area of sidewalk has been put in between those 2 trees. We sort of looked at it. It's got a very good view shed. It also has a security light almost right across the street, so in the evening hours, if someone was sitting there, the area is still lit up, but it does have a very good shaded area for those that are walking and are looking for that. The second location that was on there is over by what many of us might remember as the duck pond at the golf course on Sussex Avenue. Certainly some things need to be done with regard to our split rail fence because we want to get that back further off of Sussex Avenue. So we'll work with our Parks Department to sort of configure that. But again, in this same area, you've got a security light across the street, you've got significant shading, you've got a nice view shed, and additionally, you have the dog waste station there as well. So we are recommending those 2 locations. We're recommending that the funds be taken from the Golf Reserve Fund to be able to do that, and then our Parks and Recreation crew can get that taken care of for us. Any questions?
Do you have any questions or comments for Trish Newcomer? Vice Mayor Henderson?
Are you opting for the center armrest?
So we have 2 options. We can go for the 6 foot. I would think in the 6 foot option, yes. The 4 foot, it might make it a little bit cumbersome. So I would say maybe we go with the 4 foot and not have the extra expense of the armrest. But that's certainly up to you guys. If you would prefer we get a bigger bench with the armrest, we can certainly do that.
How is it?
They'll both be the same.
How is it priced and
So
proposed?
the benches themselves are the same. The armrest stuff, if you want to go back, yeah, you'll see the armrest, the center armrest is $175. So the bench cost doesn't change, but the armrest does. Does that make sense?
So
So the larger larger bench is the same cost as the smaller one?
based on the information we were provided. But I would think in a 4-foot, you're gonna, I mean, it's doable. It just makes the seating area much smaller in a 4-foot.
How many benches?
2.
One in each location.
Yeah, so if we did 2 benches and 2 armrests, the total is $30,891.
So I guess my question would be, for the motion itself, should a council person want to make the motion, should they specify which size of the bench? Is that appropriate?
probably best.
Specify?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
And I would opt to go with the 6 foot, go with the larger one.
The larger bench.
There's no price difference.
That would be my
Yep.
Yeah.
thing, and with the armrest. It's longer, it would allow more people to sit there, plus it would deter someone lying in repose.
Correct, which is why you typically would put the,
Yeah.
yep, exactly.
Also, one,
way to put that.
one person can sit one way and the other person can sit another way and using the armrest, so.
The city manager actually tested that out on one of our benches.
And it is very,
No, it did not.
and again, 4 foot without the armrest, it is
It's
very
cumbersome.
uncomfortable to be able to,
10-4.
lie in repose.
I have a question. Now, you can pour a cement slab for them to be mounted?
Yes.
Gonna have to, yes, sir.
Okay.
Yeah, and like I said, on the duck pond section, we'll have to
Right.
do some changing in the way that our split rail fence is, because we want to get that bench off the roadway.
Right.
And maybe not to move forward too quickly, but when we looked at it and talked about it, specifically around where the dog waste station is, if these locations start to collect trash, we may wind up having to put a trash can in the vicinity. We're our discussion, the director and myself, was, let's take it one step at a time, let's do this. Hopefully people that utilize it are responsible, we won't have a problem, but should we may have to add that amenity as well.
Okay. Any other questions or comments regarding new business number 6? Okay, if there are no comments or questions, I'll set the motion.
Councilwoman Grassett, I make a motion to approve the concept plans to place 2 6-foot-long benches along the walking trail around Hooper's Landing Golf Course as presented.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Grassett. Is there a second?
Councilman Quillen, I'll second.
A second from Councilman Quillen. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you, and when they are put in place, I'm sure our superintendent of Parks and Recreation will share that with all of you.
Thank you, Ms. Newcomer. Before we move on to new business number 7, I just want to take a second to thank Mr. Joseph, who was the person who originally brought it up, and the concept. That's what I like about this city council and this process, is an individual brought this up as an idea, and the departments in the city were open to the concept, put it forward, the city council was open to the concept, and now it can come to fruition. So very excited to see that happen for Mr. Joseph and other people who use the walking trail. So on to new business number 7.
All right, new business number 7 is a request of budget overrun for roof replacement at Hooper's Landing Lounge and Pro Shop building. So the backstory here is, as council will recall, in the current budget that we're in, we did budget $26,000 for replacement of the cart barn roof. That roof, as well as the Pro Shop, were original when we got the facility in 2010. The cart barn was starting to lose shingles, so we budgeted that, again, $26,000. As things progress, last month, we did get a report of a leak from the Golf Pro in the lounge building. Had it looked at to see if it could be repaired, and the recommendation came back from the contractor that we should look at replacing it. So in my discussions with the Golf Pro and the Director of Finance, we did get pricing to look at the price to do both while the contractor was on the site. The lowest price was from Callaway Roofing. We got 3 different prices. Callaway Roofing for a Tamco Titan 50-year shingle, $34,400. So the recommendation, the request of council's consideration this evening is to consider a $8,400 budget overrun, bring the contractor in and have both buildings done at this time. For all the buildings that are out there, we have done in the last 5 years the pool building. The only thing that's remaining is the maintenance building, but I believe that's a metal roof. So this will take care of pretty much everything that's out there that we're responsible for.
Could you restate the lifespan expectancy of the roof?
So this is what's called a 50-year shingle.
Okay.
So,
About half.
yes, yes. So they market it as a 50-year shingle. It's based on the per square yard weight of the shingle.
Okay, thank you. Are there any questions or comments from council regarding new business number 7? If there are no questions or comments at this time, I'll accept the motion.
Councilwoman Grassett, I make a motion to approve the budget overrun for roof replacement at Hooper's Landing Lounge and Pro Shop Building, funding to be provided by Gulf Reserve Funds as presented.
All right, we have a motion from Councilwoman Grassett. Is there a second?
Councilman Holland, I second that motion.
We have a second from Councilman Holland. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously. And now on to old business number 1. And Mr. Bailey approaches.
Good evening, Mayor and Council.
Good
evening.
Manager. So this is the second reading to changes to section 10.1.2B that will require all garbage and refuse to be placed in bags inside of the approved containers when people put their trash out for pickup. We're getting a lot of complaints about loose trash blowing out of containers and down the street, and it's trash in the neighborhoods up. So other municipalities have similar codes relating to this, so we're looking to add it to ours to try to reduce some of that refuse blowing down the street when they put their cans out for pickup.
During the first reading, our building official, Mr. Bailey, was not here. Council had a few questions about making it clear this does not apply to recycling. So you'll see that in the section 10.1.2 exception, item for recycling shall not be placed in bags per the regulations set forth by the state of Delaware. And then Mr. Bailey did provide, at our follow-up discussion the next day, he provided existing code language, which council has in their package, chapter 10, refuse, and the definitions section 10.1.1. It defines garbage, litter, refuse, and rubbish. So you'll see that that's existing code. And based on our discussions and how Mr. Bailey administers the code and his department staff, as long as the recycling is not bagged and in the container in accordance with the law, that's great. Should it overflow and fall on the ground, it then becomes garbage, litter, or rubbish by the definition, and then there's a violation. So we asked Mr. Bailey to be here this evening in case council has a question about how we enforce the code, about the existing code language or the proposed code language.
Yes. What would be defined, the violation?
If it's on the ground, it's litter.
Okay, I mean,
Yeah.
will there be a fine associated with it, or like, it has to be occurred so many times before?
Well, we try to start with some friendly contact if we know where it's coming from. Then it'll escalate to a certified letter, giving them 5 to 10 days to clean it up. If that time they don't clean it up, we write the work order for our crews to go out and clean it up. Then we lien the property for that time and labor.
Any additional questions or comments from Mr. Bailey? Okay, if there are no questions or comments, I'll set the motion.
I've got a lot of them tonight. Councilwoman Grassett, I make a motion to approve the changes to section 10.1.2B of the municipal code that would require all garbage and refuse to be placed in secure bags and inside of approved containers as presented.
We have a motion from Councilwoman Grassett. Is there a second?
Councilman Holland, I second that motion.
We have a second from Councilman Holland. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Passes unanimously.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Bailey.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you.
I'm going to move over to reminder of meetings and setting new meetings.
Thank you, sir. We only have one this meeting. movie night in the park Friday, August 22nd in the grass lot behind City Hall at 8 p.m., featuring the movie Lilo and Stitch 2.
Ah, a fan favorite, McCoy household.
We do have a Friday Night Live this week, correct?
I believe so.
Yes.
I'm getting
Yeah.
signaled that
I
we do.
thought we did.
Yes, my apologies.
Okay.
It's Lowercase Blues, Vanderwins, and Mojo's to Go. There you go.
Good job.
That's
Bam,
good
look
advertising.
at that. That's coming straight from our Parks and Recreation liaison, I believe.
And I think we're having a special guest. I think the TV station is sending their mascot to the event to cover it.
What,
Yes, I
what
do.
station would that be?
That would be, I
Mr.
believe,
Grant?
Petey the Peacock is going to be there to cover the event.
That'll seal the deal.
Man.
I will
PD.
pretend I don't know Petey.
It's going to fan out over the crowd.
Yeah.
Ta-dum.
Fan out. Yeah. Very good, Vice Mayor. Very good. All right, we're going to move on to our liaison reports, and Dr. and Councilwoman Stephanie Grassi with
I'm
Code
back
Parks
up.
and Recreation. Yep.
Yep. So as far as code department, there have been 265 permits issued in 2025, 1,844 rental licenses. They are completing and scheduling rental inspections, continuing to do routine inspections for ongoing projects, as well as doing violation inspections throughout the city and performing plan reviews for new permits. As far as large project statuses, Muirfield Phase 4 permits have been issued to Ryan Homes for 40 lots in Phase 4. There are still 2 lots remaining for construction in Bel Air on Danfield Drive. The Western Sussex Business Campus is waiting for final inspection, and the company is working on the first lease for storage space. In the Nylon Capital, demolition is progressing on the old Woolworths. Fit out for the mill has started. Deltec fit out permits have been issued and work has started, and site work on water and sewer across the site is nearly complete.
Amen.
For Parks and Recreation, the highlights, they've been spraying a lot of weeds all over town, cutting grass, especially for those work orders for violations. They have worked with Sussex Conservation to complete biannual cutting. They've made repairs to one of their mowers, and they've been completing field setup programs. Those programs in recreation, youth flag football and youth soccer. There are 25 teams in youth soccer with a total of 244 children. There are 14 teams in youth flag football with a total of 150 children, and 8 teams for men's slow pitch softball. And so far, 8 people are registered for an adult pickleball clinic, which begins on, or actually began last night. They also have been, they have submitted a grant for $8,000 for our youth soccer program. They hosted a movie night in the park. They are working on sponsorships for flag football. They had a successful but little dreary Friday Night Live on 8/1, and they are working with Nanticoke Fence about replacing some fencing at Seroptimus Park, and they have an advertisement out for a full-time Park Tech 1 position. If anyone is looking for or interested in that employment, that job has been posted.
All right. Thank you, Councilwoman Grassett. We'll move over to Police and Fire and Vice Mayor Dan Henderson.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have 2 complete reports from both chiefs tonight, and I'll just go over some of the major points. Under total department responses for the fire department, total is 3,604 calls for an average of 16.6 calls per day. And you'll note that that's 12% increase above last year to date on fire responses. You'll see some new tables here for the July calls by hours. It gives you the time of day that the responses were that the responses were responded to, and then a breakdown of the total calls under fire and EMS. A list of significant incidents. 3 of them were out of the city and 2 were assists. And Under apparatus, all fire department apparatus is in service. You'll see the fuel usage and the number of times to the pump and the average or net cost per the period. This period was for the month, not for 2 weeks. This is for the month. The next training will be Wednesday, August 20, for high-rise hose operations. Next, you'll see the chart for training, for hours spent, the number of people who attended, and the total hours expended on training. Under emergency medical services, all 3 ambulances are in service. Firefighter EMT Zachary Middleton has resigned his full-time employment. Under news and events, the NFPA certification for Ladder 87 is complete. They repaired the 2 items that needed to be addressed. The NFPA hydraulic rescue tool maintenance and testing will be tomorrow, August 13th. The new engine 87.3 is now scheduled for delivery in February of next year. On to the Chief Crafts Police Department report. You'll see, as usual, columns with 2025 year-to-date information. There were, under all crimes, there were 211 counted as all crimes, and you'll see the distribution from felony, misdemeanor, violation, civil, and other, for an 85% clearance rate, and that was down 1% from the previous period. However, still quite acceptable. It's good, actually. Under drug complaints, there were 24 drug crimes, 22 adult arrests, and 2 prosecution decline. Under traffic, traffic's been busy. 282 traffic contacts, resulting in 239 citations and 50 warnings. 2 DUIs, alcohol-related, during this period, and 27 crashes. 2 injury accidents during the period. 5 hit-and-run accidents, which were all on private property. We had 1 motorcycle / scooter accident in the Walmart parking lot, and 1 pedestrian accident on High Street and South Pearl Street. You'll see some charts which can be expanded to show time of day, days of week, that the most activity occurred, along with several significant incidents that occurred, and I'll let you read those at your leisure. Under administration, he attended director, staff liaison, and council meetings as the scheduled. The chief did that. There were applicant interviews performed by the chief and deputy chief. And as you recall, on 7/22, he presented the nomination for Jim Bowden to be appointed the Seaford Police Department official historian. There was, on 7/23, there was a meeting on the female locker room and lactation room expansion meeting, which the city manager, the chief, and deputy chief attended. He attended, all sergeants and above attended a sergeant meeting. There was a Zoom meeting with the Kalia assessor, Dr. Michael Webb, and that was a Zoom meeting. This This gentleman is going to be visiting Monday through Wednesday of next week, and if you would like to meet this gentleman or have some input on the CALIA assessment, he will be here all those 3 days. Please contact the chief if you would like to get in front of Dr. Webb to add any type of value to the CALIA assessment. On 7/29, there was a 5-year strategic plan meeting with Dr. Warren. And then on 8/6, there was a summit on gang-related violence with the Cambridge Police Department, the Laurel PD, and the Seaford PD. That was attended by the chief and the deputy chief. There seems to be a need for some sort of collaboration and some mutual aid between Laurel, Cambridge, and Seaford, because there's a lot of activity going around on group-related violence or gangs. And then on the 7th of August, the deputy chief met with the Help Initiative. See a lot of community events going on. I was happy to see the police department was engaged with the AFRAM celebration. I did attend. I attended during the time of day where I didn't encounter anyone else, but I hope some of you did go. There's an upcoming Citizens Police Academy every Wednesday from 6 to 9 p.m. beginning on August 27th through October 1st. If you have some constituents that might be interested, please have them contact the police department to get enrolled. It's a very worthwhile event.
I'm excited. I'm
You-
doing it.
You're going?
Mhm.
Good. It'd be very, very well worth your time. One other thing. I'd like to congratulate Corporal Hare and Detective Nanola for attending the FBI LEADA Executive Leadership Institute class. Is that the first? That's the first class in the
Yes,
trilogy, right?
correct.
So that's the first class, or first class in a number of classes, 3, that will that identifies leadership and encourages leadership training, and it's a very prestigious thing to have to go through the trilogy, which we have 2 or 3.
We have several
that are actually have actually
Graduate,
completed that.
yes.
We've had many in the past, but
Yes.
I think we have 3 or 4 current members of the police department who have gone through all 3 classes. So congratulations to Corporal Hare and Detective Corporal Nanola for completing the first leg. And that concludes my report.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. If I may chime in briefly regarding the Citizens Police Academy, could not recommend it more highly. I was very fortunate to be in the inaugural class of the Citizens Police Academy. Highly informative, highly educational. The department does a great job putting you in real-life scenarios they face every single day. They pull no punches. They show you exactly what they're dealing with. And if anybody wants to really know and get a better understanding, I highly recommend giving it a shot. So, just my 2 cents. I'm going to move over to Administration and Councilman Orlando Holland.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. They attended a gun violence summit meeting, and a site visit was made to the Nylon Capital Center with potential tenants, and IT worked on setting cameras up at Ross Station, and they assisted Seaford Police Department with interviews, and they attended the DENMAC Annual Board Retreat meeting, and they attended various other meetings and events, and all the work was routine. And that concludes my report, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Councilman Holland. Over to Electric and Councilman Mike Bradley.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Wasn't able to meet with Greg Brook this morning because he had a meeting with Tidal Health about some generator upgrades. Since the last report, I'm going to dovetail with Dr. Grassett. The electric department has been trimming weeds and vines and whatnot throughout the city. And they replaced a breaker panel at the Seroptimus Park, replaced a street lamp pole at Gateway Park, trim more trees and vines in various areas throughout the city. They ran overhead primary and provided secondary power to 5 new homes on Porter, which I just botched a motion on. And they finished the infrastructure for Bel Air single-family homes. Work on underground and Muirfield Phase 4. Greg attended training at Demick, attended interconnection meeting with the city, with City Manager Anderson at Demick. Worked on street lamp estimate for Nylon. Met with Wesco concerning the materials for upcoming projects. And as a sidebar, my wife, Scout, and I took the back way down to the riverfront and walked the path where the electric plant has been demolished. And I'll be quite frank, I was apprehensive in the beginning about the demolition, but I really like the improvement, and I encourage everyone in this room, including my fellow council members, to take the time and walk that, because it's going to be very nice when it's completed. That concludes my report. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Bradley. And last but not least, Public Works and Wastewater Treatment Facility with Councilman Alan Quinlan.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll start with Public Works. Drug alleys, performed equipment maintenance, spray weeds along the curbs throughout the city, clean quarterly key sewers, large locate performed for GMB at Martin Farms, cleaned vacuum trailer, replaced water meters, repaired water meter on 1330 Middleford Road, replaced frost proof at Virginia Commons lift station, placed barriers for AFRAM, installed new service line on Pond Street, and performed all routine tasks throughout the week. Moving over to the wastewater treatment plant and compost. Plant is performing well. Dewatering performance varying from week to week. PAA trial is underway. Results have been encouraging. West filter is stuck in the alarm mode, still functioning okay, but cannot clear the alarm. Fighting with grease blockages in preliminary waste line. Grit dumpster wheels have been repaired. Completed DSWA and septage reports. Various FOG inspections. PWAS plugged. Pulled a EQ pump number 2 and repaired for evaluation. Leachate flow meter is down using manual tank measurements for volumes. Replaced cooling fans in RAS and BNR VPDs. So that's been completed too, and that completes my report.
Thank you, Councilman Quillen. All right. At this time, I will ask for a motion to adjourn the council meeting.
Councilman Quillen, so moved.
We have a motion from Councilman Quillen. Is there a second?
Councilman Holland, I second.
And a second from Councilman Holland. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Okay. Good night, everybody.